Hello, and welcome to the Euro What, episode number 147 for the week of March 7th, 2022. I'm Ben Smith, and I'm joined today by Mike McComb. Hey, Mike.
Hello.
We are a pair of Americans trying to make sense of the Eurovision Song Contest, and this week we'll be talking about the results of the latest Overstuffed Saturday.
That was a lot, and I'm glad that the last weekend is going to be much, much smaller, much, much quieter, much, much easier to multi-screen. So.
Yes, there was so much multi-screening happening this weekend. Even splitting the choices that were happening down the middle, just so much multi-screening had to happen.
We're getting through this, but man, I'm really starting to feel the burnout. So.
Yes. But just around the corner, the selection process for America begins. The American Song Contest is happening on the 21st. The big news this week on that front is that the lineup has been announced, and if you would like our thoughts on that, that's what our Patreon episodes are going to be for. I'm intrigued.
I'm also intrigued because one of my nemeses is part of the lineup. Guess who it is? You might be surprised. But yes, you can find that over at patreon.com/Eurowhat. That episode should be dropping a little bit later this week. We will be doing weekly recaps of the American Song Contest once that gets up and running.
In terms of the Eurovision Song Contest, it has been a busy week, and we're not just talking about this weekend. We are starting to get the slow trickle out of the various internal selections that have been named. The first of those this week was the Netherlands, with S10's song, De Diepte. For me, this felt very much of a piece with the songs of hers I've been listening to since she got announced. What did you make of this one, Mike?
I think it was kind of what I was expecting from the Netherlands. Like, it just seemed like it was time for a ballad of this nature. It hasn't really stuck with me yet, but like, to be fair, I haven't really had an opportunity to engage with it since there's been a lot of stuff happening.
Just a fire hose of songs this weekend. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to getting to marinate with this one, particularly in the context of its semifinal. Nothing jumped out as being like, oh no. Like, I think this is continuing with the trend of solid choices that Netherlands has established for itself the last several years.
This is a very good choice for them. Also revealing itself this before all of our selections this weekend was Montenegro's entry from Vladana, Breathe.
So selfishly is unforgivable. The air is what they breathe. Air is what they breathe. They'll die without it. It's unforgivable.
This one for me didn't click on the first listen, but I was listening to it before we recorded today, and it reminds me of a couple of different Montenegrin entries that have done fairly well for them. It reminded me of like Knez from like 2015. Montenegro also either goes like weird and experimental in terms of like what typically shows up at Eurovision, or does like a very solid Balkan ballad, and this is very much the latter.
Yeah, I find it very engaging. With the information that they provided before the song was released, where it's about a very personal tragedy that happened to her, and like the subtitle of it was Unforgivable, and it's like, ooh, this could get really dark. I didn't find it as dark as I think I was expecting. There is a sadness that is threaded into the song, but I find myself like kind of listening deeply. About halfway into the song, it's like, oh, wow, I'm actually like really engaged in the story that she's trying to tell.
Yes. Well, and like instrumentally, it's very lovely. Like, it's just very rich. And again, very much in that Balkan ballad tradition. So I'm happy we have that in the mix now.
Yes. And she also performed at Romania's final over the weekend. So got a chance to see a live performance of it. And yeah, she has a really good stage presence about her. So I'm intrigued by what this could potentially do for Montenegro, since they've not had the best luck at Eurovision. And I think this might be a step in the right direction. Those were the only internal selections that happened. We'll have a whole slew of them in this coming week as we get closer to that deadline. Kicking off the selection processes for this weekend, on Friday, Germany had their 12 points Germany. There were 6 songs that were competing, and the winner from that process was Malik Harris and his song Rockstars.
We used to be the rock stars who never thought of no harm till this thing we call life stopped dreaming. I wish there was a way to go back dreaming, remembering it so hard when time is moving so fast. Wish there was a way to know the curving, the good old days before we all just leave on. Sometimes I got this kind of.
Did you get a chance to watch Germany? It was during our work day, but like my Fridays tend to be pretty late, so I had this one on in the background.
I had an unexpected afternoon off from work. As long as I'm here, let's turn on Germany 12 points. Those were definitely some songs that were performed.
Not the strongest field, you're saying?
I was watching and going, well, I'm not sure what's getting through from this semifinal, and was like, no, this is the final. These are the choices.
Yeah.
I feel like Germany did a little bit too much of a course correction from last year. Jendrik doesn't strike me as out there, but it was just like very up-tempo, very sort of visually loud. There were a couple stronger entries in the mix, but it felt like 6 different shades of beige.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of describing it. I don't think there was anything that was particularly bad, but I don't think there was anything that was particularly great either.
I get that Germany doesn't want to get like a no point like last year, but I'm not sure that anything really jumped out to me as like, yes, this is gonna get Germany out of their slump.
And there were also just some technical difficulties that were happening. There was one performance, was it during, it must have been soap, because there were bubbles that were floating around. I'm not even 100% sure what happened, because I think I was looking away from the screen at that point. Was it that she just forgot the words, or did a bubble fly into her face or something?
I was watching and didn't turn away, and I couldn't quite figure out if it was the bubbles had like gone up her nose or something, or just like having a brain fart. I'm surprised, given the volume of live TV that happens for Eurovision season, that we don't have more flubs like that.
I mean, my heart goes out to her. That just has to be like a mortifying experience.
Yeah.
But I don't think that necessarily prevented her from winning. Before that incident happened, a lot of people seemed to be kind of freaked out by the backing dancers that were in the Zorbs behind her. It was a tough visual.
Yeah, so the visual was, this was just such a one-note lineup.
Mm-hmm.
If you told me everything was set to the same click track, tempo-wise... Yeah, I feel like Germany is trying to reach back for like the "you let me walk alone" sort of deal again, because they're like, we did well with that, but it's like, but things may have moved on.
Right. Yeah, like they were just trying to kind of math out where it's just like, okay, well, this many beats per minute does extremely well. Let's try this, and it's like, well, no, it's not all science, it's not all art. You got to have a balance of the two.
There was also just a really weird moment when the scores were being given out, because a big portion of the panel were various radio stations with minor tweaks with like who was in 4th, who was in 5th, or like at least in one case who was in 1st, who was in 2nd. Like the top 3 from every radio station was like the exact same order, to a level where I'm like, is this mathematically possible? And like it is, because it happened that way, but like it was just very strange in the moment to be like, everybody gave 12 points to this one and 10 points to this one and 8 points to this one.
Do we need to dismiss the German jury because there was too much consensus?
Just like all of the radio stations talked. On the other hand, it just really speaks to maybe the same people are listening to radio in Germany, regardless of what station is their preference. Of the entries they had, Malik Harris's was sort of towards the top in terms of my favorites. I liked the staging, even though I know that none of those instruments are plugged in. I'm a sucker for whenever we're building up the song piece by piece. So I thought that was strong. I was not expecting the rap breakdown.
That's going to be its defining feature at Eurovision, like just because that doesn't happen all that often, and like he delivers it well, which is also important.
The full package, it's delivered very well, and there were things in the lineup that irritated me more.
Okay. And with that strong endorsement.
Yes. I did like the vibe of Germany's selection in that like the room they were in felt like a large enough stage, but also felt weirdly intimate, and I thought that was nice. And I thought the hosting was great, but again, just sort of like the lineup itself was just sort of was there.
They had Jamala as a guest performer, and she recently fled Ukraine with her children. She was performing 1944, and that song is even more relevant.
Yeah, it just has so much more resonance in a way that I don't think we imagined.
Like, it was a good, well, I don't want to say it's a good moment, but like, I mean, it was a solid moment in a otherwise show.
Yeah, I did like the other medley they had of No No Never, and then Conchita also singing No No Never, and then Conchita being Conchita. I don't know, I want there to be like more of an exchange of songs, but also just sort of ending things with Ein bisschen Friese was sort of a nice tie-in as well.
I'm glad that Germany went back to a national selection. They're just like, we've got songs. It's like, okay.
It's like, okay, that's cool. Have fun, y'all.
Yeah. It's like, we just want to play. And it's like, all right, that's fine. Like, I like that attitude. So,
but yeah, and then Super Saturday happened.
Yeah, it did.
I started out the day by watching Denmark. It's been very interesting this season, just seeing whose act from last year gets to open the show and who's just sort of quietly just gets left alone. Why didn't Latvia bring Samantha Tina back? But Denmark opened with Fyr og Flamme, and they're still having a great time. So,
oh, good.
Yeah, this lovely to see them. Denmark just seemed to be excited to be back in the arena and have people in the room again too.
Which makes a lot of sense because they were one of the only ones that didn't have an audience back in 2020, and they had just switched to that new venue too.
It was a great kind of homecoming for Denmark getting to be over there. And like the vibe of the Danish selection was very fun. Like they had like all of the pre-roll clips were released like at like a fun cocktail party where like everybody was getting a drink from the bar and they talked to them about their song. And there was like a bar on the floor of the arena too, which again, I was hoping for some Golden Globes energy. I don't think we got anything. It was very controlled. Overall, I thought they had like an intriguing lineup of things, although I've now been able to pick out the word gospel in the various like Nordic selections. I always just like, you guys are very white nations. Please be careful.
Oof.
In this case, it was fine, although like I could just see in the background of the performance of Hallelujah, it's like, oh no, people in robes are coming out. Oh no.
Okay.
8 acts performed, and again, there was some interesting diversity in that lineup. I maybe would have moved forward kind of the ravey song over Hallelujah or the male-female duet that made it through, but ultimately I think they put the right three things in the gold final, and the right thing prevailed out of those three, which was REDDI's The Show. Have you given this a listen, Mike?
I gave it a listen when I was pulling audio that we just heard. It was kind of giving me like a Bangles Go-Go's vibe.
Yes.
I haven't really had a chance to like sit with the song yet, though.
Neither have I. I ended up switching over to Iceland after like the majority of the Danish lineup had performed. So like I had to, like I quickly turned the audio on this one just because in the pre-roll interview, I'm like, oh, this band looks fun. That was proven correct. I think it takes maybe a little bit too long to get started because I really like the last minute and a half of it, and it has a build up to get there.
Yeah, that was my thought because I saw you tweeting. It's like, ooh, they should send this, and like, listening to the first verse, it's like, I'm surprised that Ben's really behind this one because it's just like it's still like just kind of piano ballad. I know it gets to rock at some point, but when does that happen?
It takes like slightly too long to get to the rock portion of things, but like once it does, like it's great. The other part of the show that was fun for them is they had like an ABBA tribute, and it was another thing where again I had moved it over to my laptop at that point, but like was like, okay, the words "gimme, gimme, gimme" are on the background. This is probably an ABBA thing. Turn the volume up. Like, yep, this is ABBA. They had that. They had "The Winner Takes It All," and then out of nowhere, Stina Bromsen from Alphabet, who is a band that Denmark should absolutely talk into like getting the band back together and representing them some year, just popped up and was doing Dancing Queen. A nicely done medley. Who doesn't love ABBA?
Yeah, well, that sounds like that was a fun show.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. I started my Saturday watching Romania. I'm not sure why Romania's broadcaster does this. I think it may have something to do with the commercial breaks, but they split out each hour of the show on YouTube rather than having it just be one continuous stream. So I watched the first video. The other two videos are like, I assume they're still up on YouTube, but got to watch 2/3 of the field before it went to the commercial break, and I ended up switching over to Iceland while waiting for France. That's not important. Anyway, the winner of Romania's process was WRS and his song Llamame. And just to recap the math of the Romanian situation, like they had their jury and like giving out all of their points, and then the televote system, which I was whining about last week. First place went to Dora with her song Anna. She got 12 points. WRS came in second, and it was very close. He ended up getting 11.23 points from the televote. And then third place went to Gabriel Basco and the song One Night. And he got about a third of the votes that Dora got, so had 3.37 points. And then it's just all craziness from there. Like, how do you end up on a system like this?
Just like when you are calculating points awarded to 2 decimal places, something has gone wrong.
So that happened. But it seems like WRS was at least the consensus winner.
I feel like we discussed this last week that was likely what's going to happen, is that it's not necessarily going to be someone getting both of the winner of both of these like we're seeing in other nations, but it's going to be something that everybody can agree on. And like sometimes when everybody agrees, we get cheese pizza.
What did you think of this track? Did you think it was cheese pizza?
I did think it was cheese pizza. It's got a little bit of flavor to it. It felt like Romania trying to play catch up instead of doing anything particularly innovative. I don't need innovation from every nation at Eurovision, but I feel like Romania is usually more fun. I don't know, this felt like we have slow-mo this year, and we have like She Got Me from a couple years ago of some Latin flavor. And like this one, there's just something missing from it for me.
I was actually kind of taken by this song, and particularly this performance. My first real exposure to this song was the performance, and I think that may have helped it a little bit. Like, I think if I were just listening to the studio track, it probably would not have caught me the same way. I can see where people may want to call this a Fuego clone. I don't think it's a clone so much as it's part of the Fuego genealogy or
the Fuego extended universe.
Yes, there we go. And yeah, but I mean, like the ones that you mentioned, like She Got Me and less so slow-mo, but
yeah, I'll say yeah. Like the Romanian entry that it brought to mind for me was Zilele. I was surprised that this song was from Romania. I was watching the live performance. I'm like, this is Romania. This is Romanian television.
Romania has just gotten kind of confused on what its brand has been and like what has been successful, that I think there is this sort of feeling of needing to kind of throw everything at the wall right now. But I think this one's going to stick. I need to see it in the context of its semifinal and all that. But yeah, I walked away from like my first listen of the song being like, oh, I kind of like this one.
Okay. Well, yeah, and like I think I like it more than some of the other entries Romania has recently sent.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you. It definitely feels like they're in a phase right now where they're just sort of, I don't know, is this what you like?
Yeah, but I think they're at least tipping on the like correct side of pop,
yes,
instead of like the, oh, I don't know, let's just send something fully Broadway. I'm just like, no, that is not the correct choice. So like, I think the centerpiece of Saturday's marathon of programming was France. I think that was the one that most people seem to be excited about and engaged with. Did you get to watch France at all? I know it was on among all of the other things.
I had like a little whiteboard that I'd written like all the times that things were starting on, so I could make real-time decisions like, do I want to switch over? I did wait until Iceland had finished, but then I was like, let's see what's going on with the France, because like France was fun last year. I keep referring to the weird 15 minutes where we thought France was going to be Pony X last year. What kind of shenanigans do they have cooked up this year? I was weirdly like calmer about it than I was last year, because like last year when France did their thing, they did have like COVID precautions, but like nobody was taking them seriously, so it was weirdly stressful. Yeah, and this year there was just like no COVID theater. So
overall, I thought it was a really good show. Like, I think it was a pretty strong field, and with the way that they kind of broke it up, where they had like the first round of 12 entries, and then that got cut down to 6. I think all 6 were the correct 6 to move on to that second round. So Yeah, like it was pretty solidly put together. The winner of that process was Elvan and Aez and their song Fulenn. And this one is in the language of Breton. I think that might be a new language for Eurovision.
Yes, and again, just sort of my realization when that was happening immediately pulled up the Sanremo clip of "It's Britney, bitch."
Yes. It won the jury and the televote, and the way that France did their points in the second round, something they may need to tweak in the future.
We've just talked about Romania, and like Romania, that is just disrespectful. France, like if it's going to be 50-50, like don't round the points to nice round numbers, because they somehow turned whatever the vote was into like 20, 40, 60, 80, 120, which is fine, but it meant that when we were down to the final two acts, I could do the math in my head and be like, oh, they've won.
Yeah, that was actually, I think, my favorite moment of the French selection, where it was down to the last two contestants, and there's like one set of 100 points and another set of 120 points, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like that is ball game. They were showing the scoreboard and then like showing the contestants, and then somebody in the booth must have realized, oh wait, no, people can do the arithmetic. Switch, and they switched to like a side by side camera view, and it's like, no, there's like no tension here. I'm updating my spreadsheet right now. Yeah, like my Trello's been updated. All of it is good.
Like it wasn't as bad as like the Eurovision Twitter has sent out who's won before you guys have announced it.
Yeah.
Because there have been a few times where like I'm waiting for the final result and I will get like the little Slack notification from the thing we have on the official Eurovision Twitter.
Yep.
Where that will come in before they've actually said the name on the program. But yeah, I was like, oh, there's a 30-point differential between Pauline, whose song I really liked, and I thought that had like, that felt the most Christine and the Queens to me, and like that's the vibe I generally want from France. On the other hand, I had just like not heard the French entry in full, because by the time I joined, we were at like the last three entrants in the first round, so I only ever saw France in the recaps, Alvan and Ahez in the recaps. And then I was like, well, certainly they'll do a reprise, and then no.
It's definitely not voila.
Yeah,
so.
Which I think that's what I'm happiest about, is that France will gladly back itself into a corner and then just like send the most French thing. If France could get away with it, they would send Patricia Koss until the heat death of the universe, if they could.
Yeah, and they had that opportunity in this year's field. Like there were two songs that definitely fit that bill. Those did not get through. If
France can't do that, I'm glad that they're sort of leaning into, hello, we've picked something from Breton. It's in a language we've never sent to Eurovision before. It's like the weird folk entry, but for France.
I think I saw somebody comparing it to like, this is what like Goa's legacy is going to be in this year. So
I was just about to say this is French Goa, so yes.
I don't know if I would go that far, but it's scratching that itch, which is appreciated. So
yeah, it's been very interesting to see sort of what various entries at the contest from last year are getting sort of propagated out into new ways. And like, this definitely feels like Goa's influence. We've definitely had a few entries that have had like the Dathi Frere influence.
And I think Serbia's entry kind of gets the Manesia influence.
Yeah.
In a way. I wasn't able to watch any of Serbia. Like a lot of the shows, it felt like it ran really late, and by the time like France was done, I was just kind of a zombie, and it's like, I'm just going to switch over to Portugal because I know they'll just do recaps for the next half hour, and I can like get dinner ready. It'll be fine. Mm-hmm. So did not watch any of Serbia. Did you get to watch any of it?
Like you, I was towards like the end of the broadcast day for Eurovision stuff, and my brain was just soup. I turned on Serbia, and they were at like the numbers portion of things. But the numbers were happening in a confusing way, so I'm like, I don't have the brain for this right now.
So the winner in Serbia was Konstrakta and in Corpore Sano.
Autonomni nervni sistem. Ne moram kontrolisati otkud sad srce kuca.
puca, srce samo kuca. Letnjeg dana jarke boje suknje moje, na mom telu suknje moje. Pa si ja šetamo nas dvoje, brojimo korake, suknja ide oko noge moje, mi šetamo.
And this song won the jury and was an overwhelming winner in the televote. She got 30% of the vote, which is pretty impressive considering there were 18 entries in play.
Wow, yeah.
A lot of public support for this one. What do you think of this track?
I had to listen to it a few times just because it's not your standard Eurovision entry, but the thing that came to mind for me was Laurie Anderson.
Oh, interesting.
Of someone who is melding sort of electronic music with larger messages and themes and just sort of capital A artist.
Right. Oh, I like that pull.
It feels very much of a piece with the Laurie Anderson album Big Science, of just like what it's trying to do, especially because I was like, okay, why is this called In Corpore Sano? In Corpore Sano is basically a healthy mind and a healthy body.
Right.
I'm like, why is this song talking about Meghan Markle's hair? The song is going to be very interesting to watch what every single person who has to commentate has to explain. If you're a self-employed artist in Serbia, you want to stay healthy because you don't have health insurance.
I think this is maybe where our American experience really comes in handy.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh, join the club, Serbia.
I just did not engage with Serbia this year, and that is on me. All of the tracks were there, like Mr. Policeman. I gave you all the
Mr.
clues,
Police, I gave you all the clues.
I just did not do my homework on that one, and seeing everybody kind of freaking out about this. And I think a lot of it was people had their favorites. This was not their favorite. And so, just being really upset that their favorite did not win. But then like seeing the explanations, it's just like the Meghan Markle hair, what? And, like other people putting it into context, particularly people like who speak Serbian, which also helps. And, so kind of getting a primer before I first listened to the song. And I'm so glad that happened because, yeah, I love this track. Like it is really striking a nerve. As you were saying, like this is like capital A artistry that is happening. Like the performance is so subtle and spooky, but like is really driving a point home. I think back to 2019 when everybody was losing their mind about Telemoves from Portugal. And that wasn't my experience in 2019, but I think what I'm experiencing with this track is what people were experiencing in 2019. Like, I think this is phenomenal.
In connecting this with like Laurie Anderson, whose work does not always get understood, and in connecting with Telemoves, which is doing some very interesting, precise things that are smaller, I'm really interested to see how this connects on the Eurovision stage and if it has the same kind of problems that Telemoves perhaps had.
Like, I think one of the challenges with Telemoves was that it felt like it was kind of being overacted in a number of parts. And like, I think my worry with this song would be like, oh, let me be more subtle. It's like, no. You need to make this. Yeah. If there is any place for like a weird 3-minute performance art piece, it is the second semifinal of the Eurovision Song Contest. Yes. And, yeah, I am very excited about this track. And also, like, it's, I don't know, we both listened to Maintenance Phase, and this feels like it is right up that, alley of that show.
Yes. My only concern with this one is that you need to understand, like, the meaning behind the song, and for somebody coming in blind to this, you're going to have to trust that, like, your nation's commentator gets it right. I don't know. Like, I'm very intrigued by this one.
Yeah, good job, Serbia. And I think that was one of the reasons why I didn't really fully engage with Serbia is like they have an established track record of making good choices, and I had more than enough trust in that they were going to pick.
Yeah, like they were going to do something interesting, but this is such an interesting pivot from Hurricane too.
Yeah.
This is a nation that can do both of these things.
Yeah, it's a good one to finish on, I think.
That is a great one as we sort of transition into checking in on the rest of the world.
What is Maneskin doing?
Rock and roll never dies!
Cosa sta facendo Maneskin?
Yeah, it's still kind of quiet on the Maneskin front. They were supposed to announce some new tour dates. They kind of went into limbo back in January because Omicron was the next big thing. Now their tour dates are still in limbo because of the crisis in Ukraine right now. And I think they may also be in the studio working on stuff. On the more positive side of things, they've been nominated for 2 iHeartRadio awards.
Best New Alternative Artist.
Mm-hmm. And then there was one that was mentioned in the article, which we will have linked in the show notes. Best New Pop Artist category. I don't know how much weight the iHeartRadio awards carry.
But they're there, and like one of the promo photos in the article, which again we will have in the show notes, is very much we as the band brought one suitcase and we will be mixing and matching pieces out of it because Damiano is in just a double-breasted blazer and then thigh highs.
Yep.
Just business as usual for them.
Yeah. The business casual.
Business casual as usual. Yeah. Elsewhere, Netta's Toy popped up as a song on the current Drag Race UK versus the World.
I've not been watching Drag Race for a couple of years, and the video that you've linked to, like, is it normally that choppy and I've just never noticed? Or like it is a weird edit of the song. I assume that they did the whole thing and they just cut it down to like the most entertaining minute of the lip sync. But it's very interesting because at this point, it's 2 American drag queens who I'm not sure who may have familiarity with the song, but it was just like I was not expecting it. Yeah. And like you can also see in the background, the contestants who are not performing, like still kind of singing along to it. So it's like, all right, that's kind of cool. So and yeah, I think Graham Norton was one of the judges, which kind of makes sense. But at the same time, it's just like, UK, when are we getting info about your Eurovision act?
The deadline is on Monday the 14th. We have a long way to go before we get there. We are recording this on Sunday, so by the time this comes out, Switzerland will have released their song and artist. Wednesday, we are getting the song and artist reveal from Cyprus. Belgium's song comes out on the 10th, as is Greece. Austria is revealing their song on the 11th, although it did kind of like mostly leak. I don't think anywhere on purpose, but like there was a lot of hubbub because the website Beatport, which is an electronic music store similar to like the iTunes store or whatever, had a preview up that was like 90 seconds long.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. But that's like 90 seconds long, but you could also see like the full track length, and the full track length is just over 2.5 minutes. So like, I have now heard most of Austria's entry.
Oh, okay. How is it?
It's upbeat.
Okay. Well, that's good.
It's a DJ plus a vocalist. It's kind of what you expect.
Yeah. Not a garment rending ballad.
Yeah. I will reserve my thoughts until I've heard the remaining minute. Who knows what happens in that first minute? As we said at the top of the show, it's a quieter weekend, which is nice.
We've earned it.
We've earned it. We've more than earned it. But yeah, we have 3 nations that are making their selections: Iceland, Sweden, and Portugal. Iceland, we had the second semifinal of Songvakeppnin this week. I think that the 2 big names everybody was watching were Marketa Irglova and Daughters of Reykjavik. Marketa Irglova, I was impressed by her performance. I had fully expected her to be like behind a piano, and she was giving like a full performance with some contemporary dancers behind her. I thought it was a pretty song, but maybe not like a Eurovision song.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty, but I don't really remember it, which doesn't help. So
I think it would have been like a great like 5-minute long interval act for the eventual Icelandic Eurovision.
Yes. If and when that does happen, they've got her in the Rolodex now.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, like she's there. But yeah, so Daughters of Reykjavik, that was the performance I think everybody was waiting to see at Iceland. I don't think that disappointed.
Nope, it did not.
This has the energy I want from Iceland at Eurovision now that they're realizing just send something that feels you. And I'm very intrigued to see like what the English or like likely English Icelandic hybrid performance looks like in the final next week.
Me too. I liked the performance of this. I think there are some areas where they can tighten it up a little bit. It's kind of messy, but I think that's kind of part of the point. But like, there's still some precision that you need in that messiness.
Yes.
That makes sense. So yeah.
To use an Italian term, sprezzatura, just sort of the sort of practiced messiness.
There we go. Yes.
Yeah. One that I would keep my eye on, though, that definitely jumped out for me, and that I would I really want to see what the final performance of this one looks like as well. Katla, the other entry that made it through, had a very well thought out staging, I thought. It felt like a very polished, very ready to go performance. So I think Iceland is likely going to go for Daughters of Reykjavik, but Katla could be like a dark horse, I think.
Yeah, and the two acts that advanced from the first semifinal, I think, are also viable entries. Like, I think Iceland has a good slate to choose from.
Yeah. Well, and then, like, I was slightly surprised by the wild card, because I was like, okay, cool, they're going to pick something like Gia that had, like, a very large stage presence, and instead they picked Amorosis, who opened the first semifinal, which that song was not to my taste. It was a song that, like, felt like it was 5 minutes long, but perhaps the English version is better. Maybe it was just sort of, like, on the other hand, like, the energy of having to open the show, of, like, the first show of a new series, opening in a new venue, that's just, like, a lot of new stuff happening at once. So, like, I'm ready to see what they're bringing. But yeah, that final lineup is going to be Katla, Daughters of Reykjavik, Amorosis, Stefán Óli, and then Siga Beta og Elin. Lots of strong choices, lots of different choices. Like, I think they picked the right things out of their two heats to really sort of build that good base.
Yes, I agree.
And then just like one programming note is that Goa had been scheduled to be the interval act at the final next week, and due to, Tusa is going to be stepping in as the interval act.
Will Tusa be performing Shum? That is my question. I would love to see that cover.
I would like to see Tusa's cover of Shum, which, speaking of covers, it was a second great week of Icelandic music people that Iceland should, like, quietly nudge to, like, write a Eurovision song covering previous Icelandic Eurovision songs. Last week we had Goose Goose covering Is It True? This week we had Gudrun covering Open Your Heart from 2005. Just her and a piano. It was just very, very lovely, very well done.
It's been a good Songvakeppnin. Like, they've really,
it's
always been a good show, but yeah, this
but like they've used
special.
used the year off to, like, really make it shine.
Over in Sweden, they had their second chance semifinal heat. I'm not even sure what the nomenclature is at this point.
Yeah,
but
we're no longer calling it second chance. It's semifinal, which since it's made up of previous entries, is technically a second chance round.
There were 8 songs that were competing in 2 groups of 4. So 2 from the first group, 2 from the second group got to advance. And those acts moving on to this coming weekend's final are Anna Bergendahl, Tone Sekulus, Teos, and Cassiopeia. So congratulations to them. Yeah, I didn't actually watch Sweden this week because I figured there's enough stuff going on, and I've seen these performances before. So nothing seems surprising.
No, nothing surprising. I think of the 8, they picked the correct 4. Watching the Anna Bergendahl performance, like, there's a lot of horses in this. There's a lot of horses.
Yeah, of all of Anna Bergendahl's songs, this one's not my favorite, and the horsiness of it is not helping.
Just like the weird horse girl energy. Yeah, looking at the full field, like, some very interesting stuff in the mix. I'm still really pulling for Cornelia Jacobs.
Yeah, I think it's between her and Medina, but I think it's more towards Cornelia at this point. Yeah, that's all I've got on Sweden. I'm still recovering from Saturday.
Yes, it's been a lot. And then Portugal is happening. We have the final there.
Yes, and the semifinals. There was a semifinal Saturday. As we record this, there's a semifinal on Monday. And 20 songs have become 10 songs at this point, and they will pick their winner on Saturday. And yeah, that's about it. That's about the level that I've been able to engage with Portugal. Like, it was really just kind of hoots and clicks by the time that I actually tuned in on Saturday. So.
Well, yeah, and then, like, we still have 4 nations where we know some of the details, but don't know when the rest of the details are going to drop. Presumably, everybody's going to have turned in their paperwork by Monday the 14th, but it's just a matter of when they will actually show us who they're sending. And those nations, in alphabetical order, are Armenia, where, again, we don't know either performer or song. Azerbaijan has promised us an emotional ballad. Circus Mercus could happen at any second.
Yeah. We have been on call for the last 5 months. Yeah.
We are ready to go. We are excited to find out what the Circus Mercus experience entails. And then the UK has been just like real quiet. They're doing some digging. TAP is on top of things, presumably.
A lot of soul searching, perhaps.
Yeah.
Who knows? So
something is happening on the UK side because like there have been groups that have said, well, we were in discussions, but they went with a different person, but we don't know who they picked yet.
Okay. Well, hopefully we will find out this week.
With that, that's going to do it for this episode of The Euro What. Thanks for listening. The Euro What podcast is hosted by Ben Smith, that's me, and Mike McComb.
That's me. Show notes, links to our Patreon, and our past episodes can be found at eurowhat.com. You can also find us on our socials at Eurowhat.
As we record this, we have 28 songs and 33 artists. Will we know all 40 by next episode? Tune in next week as we try to make sense of what has been selected for Eurovision.